Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today I just wanted to talk about how I got into UX with no experience. Like, what was my very first entry point into the field? I get asked this question a lot because people know that I did not go to school for UX, and that's not what my degree is in. And I think a lot of people are in the same boat. So I'm just gonna share my experience and hopefully it can help you or inspire you in some way. So before I really dive in, I want to back up and give you a little bit of background as to where I'm coming from in the design world. I started my design journey back in college whenever I applied to the Penn State graphic design program. The way that the program worked, at least back then, is there were 2 years of foundational courses culminating in a portfolio review that would actually tell you whether or not you could proceed with the rest of your peers in the design program. If you passed the portfolio review, you could declare your major as graphic design and go forth and do the rest of the course load. So luckily I did get in, I passed the portfolio review, and I was actually thinking it'd be funny to make a video reviewing my portfolio from back then. So let me know in the comments if that's something you're interested in. But anyway, I made it into the program, and so the next 2 years, my junior and senior year, were all graphic design courses. We learned a lot of branding. It was a lot of logo design, a lot of packaging and print design and photography, some video, and a little bit of web design, but honestly, not much digital at all. During the last 2 summers of my college experience, I got 2 different internships. First was at HCDG, which is really hard to say now that I'm thinking about it. It's Hirshhorn and Zuckerman Design Group. And so they're a big design agency, and I got my internship in Santa Cruz in their really small Santa Cruz office, which doesn't actually exist anymore. But that was my first internship, and I did enjoy it, but I don't know, I didn't really see myself working in that type of environment long term. Then the next summer, which was the summer right after I graduated, I got another internship at a big marketing agency in Charlotte, North Carolina. The agency is called Ray Ward, and same thing, I really enjoyed my experience, but I just didn't see myself at a big marketing agency long term. So after the internship, I went back home to Pittsburgh, where I lived at the time, and started to really think about where I wanted to apply, where I wanted to try to work for my first 9-to-5 job as a designer. So as you can see, nowhere in there did I learn UI UX. Honestly, at the time, I don't think I even could have defined it for you. But little did I know I was about to have my very first job in UX and my first job out of college. So basically, when I went back to Pittsburgh, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I thought maybe I wanted to move to California, so went out there, was applying for so many jobs out in California and just couldn't really get any word back. And I started to get kind of discouraged and thought about applying to places back in Pittsburgh, in my hometown, so that way I didn't have to spend tons and tons of money on rent in California. If I wanted to, if worse came to worse, I could move back in with my parents. You know, the classic conundrum when you graduate college. I was feeling all of those feels and insecurities and not knowing where I was going next. So this was just a few months. So I had that internship in Charlotte, which was the summer. In August, I went back home, traveled around a bit, and it was, I believe, October that I finally applied to this place called Branding Brand, which they do not do branding. So again, very confusing name. But they're based in Pittsburgh, and they are a digital design agency. Specifically, what they do is design e-commerce apps for some big retailers around the world. And so a really cool company that I had never heard about until, you know, the 20th time that I was on Indeed job searching. And finally, I saw that and just decided to apply. At the time, I was applying everywhere. I could go back and probably find a spreadsheet of dozens and dozens of applications I had sent out. So this, in my mind, was just another one. I read the description It was for a junior digital designer position. And honestly, as I was reading through it, I didn't feel super qualified. This seemed sort of like a UX job. They framed it as a digital designer because of the specific project they were hiring for, but you were working on apps and I didn't have any experience working on apps. So I sent out my application not expecting to hear back. And to my surprise, that was one of the very few callbacks that I got was from that tech company. And so I was really excited, and honestly, I was willing to take anything I could get at that point. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I thought maybe I wanted to do branding, but this seemed fun too, and I was totally open to it. So the first step was a phone interview. So I had an interview with the woman who would become my boss, and we just went through the really standard questions. It was nothing crazy. A little bit about my experience, but it was a junior designer position. So they really weren't expecting too much out of my experience, which was definitely a good thing for me at the time. So that phone interview must have gone well because at the end, she asked if I would do a take-home project. I'll put it up on the screen so you can see what it is. Now, looking back on it, it is so funny to look at this because this is how I got my first job as a UX designer with no experience. I was tasked with coming up with a website that could be responsive, so desktop and mobile breakpoints, and it had to have certain criteria, which I will put up on the screen. They also wanted to see my process. So as you can see here, I was supposed to send in my wireframes, my balsamic sketches, along with the final sort of deliverables for this. It was really kind of nerve-wracking for me to do this take-home project because, like I said, I had never designed a website before. I designed my portfolio website on Squarespace, but that is literally it. This was my very first stab at it, and the stakes were high because this was pretty much the only job that I had a lead on. And I think it was about 4 days later that it was due back to the team. I believe my interview was on a Monday and it was due on that same Thursday or Friday. So they were really trying to see what I could do in a very short time. And so then I think I waited a while before I heard back after that step. I think it was probably a week or a week and a half, and then I got a call asking if I would come in for an in-person interview. And so I was really excited. I guess I assumed that the project was good enough, and so I was pumped. It seemed like I was kind of like almost to the finish line. And so I got together my portfolio, and it was funny taking in this portfolio where it was literally a printed out portfolio. Like, I'm not sure if college students still do those in design programs, but that's literally what it was that I was bringing into this digital design like tech company. And I brought a magazine that I was design director for, all of these things that were experience but not relevant experience. And so it was just really interesting to sort of see how that went down, especially now looking back. They were really impressed with all the work that I showed, and finally they asked me to sort of stand up and present my take-home project. They asked why I made certain decisions, and I believe actually whenever they called me to ask if I would come back in, they also gave me some feedback on the practice project that I was supposed to implement when I came back for the interview. So that's what I did. I stood up, I presented what I had done, how I had taken their feedback and come up with some improved designs. I left feeling really good about the interview, and I was really excited to see if I would get a call back and get an offer. And I did. Just a couple days later, I got an offer and was super excited to start. It was definitely a funny feeling, kind of going into something brand new that I did not think I would be doing. In school, like I said, we did all of this branding work, packaging, all of this stuff that I felt like I wouldn't really be using anymore. But what's really interesting about how this happened, and I'm assuming how it happens for a lot of other people too, is that all all of that experience that I got in school and in my internships still really prepared me for my job in UX and my next jobs in design and UX going forward. So that's pretty much the story of how I got into UX with no experience whatsoever. Basically, it just took one design team to look at me, my skills, my processes, how I was willing to learn, and give me a chance to kind of prove myself and learn on the go. I'm really, really grateful for that experience on that design team. And it really is what started everything for me. At that company, I was hired to work on the Thermo scientific contract. So basically, 80% of my work in the very beginning was with Thermo And so it was a really technical company and it took a lot of getting used to. But it was a really good experience to figure out how to organize all that information, create a design system for them, and I was able to go into their office and learn how to work not just with my design team, but with one of the real clients. It was all on me as the junior designer to manage that relationship. So that was really, really cool. And outside of that, I was also able to take on some other projects. I designed the new app for Chubbies, the guys' shorts brand. I also designed the new app for Ocean, and I got to lend a helping hand here and there on apps like Topshop, Party City, BJ's Wholesale Club, and Universal Studios. And so I really got to make a big impact with my work and learn best practices while I was creating things that were going to be used by tons and tons of people. So overall, a really, really cool first job. Alright guys, that's all I have to share with you today. I really hope you found this video interesting or inspirational or informative in some way. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and I invite you to ask any questions that you still have down in the comments below, and I will answer it or maybe make a video about it in the future. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!